Okay, that should be working, even if nothing else is. Morning, Doctor. How you doing? Good, good. Depends on what you count as tall. I'm 6 foot, about 6'2", somewhere around there. Mojo's just jealous because he's smaller. I'm 6'2". Okay, so what do we have outstanding here? Oh yes, this is what I was doing. We upgraded packages, right? Yes, we shifted around. 5'9" is not too small. Hey, come on. No, we're not chewing plastic bags. Come on, go lay down. Okay, so we moved source generator into these pieces. I'm the geek. Good afternoon. How are you doing? We removed mediator source generator from some. Yeah, there's a guy at work who was a basketball player, almost Olympic runner. Yeah, so pretty tall then. Yeah, I can imagine. What? Did that really duplicate source generator into there? If I look at attachments, edit. Yes, it did. It added source generator twice. That would be good. Yeah. Good afternoon, maybe. How you doing? Sorry I didn't get back in your stream yesterday. Once I got on the plane, barely anything worked. No worries. Enjoy your painting. Thank you for the luck. Go lie down, Doc. Go on, go lie down. The dogs are discombobulated because I took them out for a wander. But my wife's home because it's a holiday week, but they want to go back and go upstairs, and I'm like, nope. So they're all sorts of upset with me for being mean. Okay, so this needed I validate. So what I was focusing on last week was getting the validation working in here. I still don't think I have it working fully. Um, but yeah, I need to separate. This is getting tasks working with the new changes. So this is tasks. That's tasks. Yeah, that's just the task stuff. So that's um, um, introducing project identifier to task. So we added a few, and yeah, so commit that. So again, moving towards this, introducing the concept of a task identifier. I've got a feeling with some reflection on this, I may flip this before I even commit too much time to it, so that you have to select the project, and from the project you can select which team might get it, which would mean that the team would be optional as long as you've got the project attached to it. But any team, really, you're still not going to work that way. Any team that we'll say that works when source generator is kicking. any team that's available for that project would see that piece of work. Interesting. So I had that working, but I had that working via that. That would be very strange. Oh, hold on, that's not the same, is it? Runtime build native. That's just nested differently. But why is that working? Ah, hold on. That's the one that should have been removed. The other one had a version attached to it. So with package management, application package management, you put the version on the root version, and then everything just references it, so you can keep consistent versioning. But you can still override it if you need to. Does this build now? It should build. So that was a conflict in versions causing the problem. There you go. Okay, so we should be able to run. So let's do liquid sky up. This starts the Docker containers first, and then starts everything else. Let's start this. And make sure the app is working, and that SignalR is working, and all that fun. I don't think I've streamed since I fixed the SignalR piece. SignalR was breaking because Windows had reserved the port. For some reason, it worked initially, and then Windows reserved the port. And then when I started it, it couldn't communicate with that port. So I just moved the port in the configuration. Yeah? Which one's that? Here's funny, I had a similar recommendation from someone else the other week that said to use something. But I can't remember. Oh, the front end design for skills. Okay. Yeah, that I have. The front end design skill I have. Oh, that's already open. Okay. Well, Kaizu's using it, so that's been installed in Claude since I started. So I don't know if I've explicitly used the front end skill. I assume I have. Um, I'm still kind of getting used to how to use skills, etc. Um, so yeah, it's there, and I have an agent to review. So also I have the MCP with um, Figma configured. So when I have Figma desktop open, I can actually use that as well. So I have a combination of things. But yeah, Kaizu has been built with that skill installed, and um, I do want to get better with using those tools. So let's go over here and get a login window. Development. So I have a profile for dev, which means I can keep away from personal stuff, so I can stop searches and stuff appearing. So that's what another benefit of using multiple. Okay, that didn't start though. Oh, these exited. That's not good. Oh no, that's right. Why didn't you? Why didn't you start? Oh, starts. No, that's liquid sky up. That's not. That's that. Okay. Liquid SkyUp is the Docker containers. Liquid, the start stack is everything. So that should run everything up now. Everything's started properly. So what I'm trying to do with this is not get derailed too much on little side quests because I'm not even at introducing the sequential identifier yet, right? I'm at the, oh, I need to um, uh, fix everything and make everything run better. But at the same time, I'm not going to say, oh well, I'll make a note for that for later. That's technical debt. That's a problem. So I'm trying to balance that out. And I've got to make the application ever more stable, right? And I've got to fix things rather than leave them and kind of backlog them all the time. At the same time, I've got to also make progress on the ideas. So I'm trying to figure out that balance. So here, a bottle. Okay, continue without passkeys. That should all be starting up. So things should be running okay. Okay, so we've joined groups. So signal is working fine. Can we see data? Now I think because of some of the changes I've made to try and get the whole, oh, when do I update, when do I pull data? I think that if I click into implementation and tasks right now, it won't load them. So we're gonna start with that. Review. Oh no, that loaded. Backlog. There we go. So if I refresh, they'll be there. If I go back, will they come? No. So let's see. I'm going to ask Claude about that state because that's not right. Uh, see what happens there. So again, trying to stabilize what I've got here before I actually dig too much deeper into the ID. And what I'm saying is the ID. So I'm going to assign a sequential identifier to this. Likelihood is once you've assigned something to a project, the chances of it changing are very low. So flipping the team and project requirement is probably a good idea. So I might flip those two things um, in the client, and that will be enough. Other than the validation piece on the server, which again I'm not certain is working fully, but that might help me. MorphyDev, hello, how you doing? How much time is allocated for the development of a project management tool? I don't really allocate time. I get as much time as I can. But it has been 2 years of development so far. But to develop this, it's definitely a labor of love. Yeah. Now, Could I have shortened that? Absolutely. I could have simplified a lot of these concepts. I could have built a monolith instead of a distributed system. I could have simplified the technology stack and built out a lot of these concepts without going so deep. That's a personal choice. So could I have got to here in about 6 months? Yes. If I'd have used AI, could I have gone quicker? Yes. Well, 2 years ago I couldn't have used AI to this level, but that's never been the point. So, and also I do feel that with AI doing it, I wouldn't have explored such a an in depth. I wouldn't have had. Sorry, I wouldn't have had the adventure I've gone on to develop this so far. Go away because I don't need you as a camera. So what now? Again, for the UI side of things, I do rely on AI a little bit more these days. It just speeds me up and stops me getting stuck on, how to position things, etc. Um, so right now, I'm just asking Claude to help me identify why this screen does not load on initial um, view. Now, it's likely because it's changed some of this to react to other events and changed how it loads the data. Realize the stats I made for my quiz website are not very good. I blame AI since I No, you made it. If you tell the AI to do something, you are responsible for what it produces. That is the mentality you need to get into. So if it doesn't do the right thing, you told it to do the wrong thing. Darren, good morning. How you doing? That's one of the big fights we're going to have as AI starts to do more. When we're asking developers to do things and they go off and use AI to do it, who's to blame? Can't say the AI. Okay, so, yep. So it's giving me a long thing. Root cause is the is current guard in load all blocks refetching after the first load. Task store is provided root with hooks calls load all once the store is first injected. Load all in task pre-feature checks if state is current before fetching. After the first successful fetch is currently set to true. On subsequent navigation to backlog, load all is never called again. And even if it were, the is current guard would skip. This suggests that it's loading the tasks for certain things, but we'll see. Let's see if it. Let's go ahead and do the changes. Yeah, and giving AI just a general animate statistics is going to result in superpower output, and that's one of the skill sets we need to learn, right? So, Morphidev, how about yourself? Are you a developer? Are you a student? Are you a to steal maybe's thunder? A baker? What do you do? And have you tackled building projects of any like this size? Now, let me build to see again because it reloaded the screen to change the code. That fixed the problem. So that's why I couldn't refresh. Build succeeds with no errors. Here's a summary of the two changes. Task query feature, remove the is current guard from load all so it always fetches from the API when called. Added task store injection and ng unit. See, now that's going to create a problem later on, but we're going to come up against that later, right? When I change an item and someone else changes an item, the need to or rather, if I change an item and then navigate away and come back, it's going to load the server version. So actually, let me ask. Wasn't the purpose of the is current to uh, I just asked it, hey, the purpose of the is current check was to make sure that we don't override local changes because of this. Hey, I'm going to save up to the server. I'm going to do something. I'm going to send it back to the view, and now it's consistent. If I if I navigate away and I've made a change and I come back, my change that I made may still be making its way through the process and therefore won't be available. So how do we account for that properly? So I've said the purpose was that, and how do we balance these two concepts? Because that's what's necessary. Is understanding. Oh, I need to load the data because I haven't got the data yet. But if I've got the data, you know, right through caching, how would caching solve that problem? Well, I mean, caching on the client is where that happens. Optimistic updates is how it puts it. Yes. Yeah. So the idea again, that optimistic, how's it going to put it? Optimistic update. It stores what we've just captured on the client side, and it says this is the current state. When the server gets that change, it will push a notification to say, "Oh, by the way, this deliverable, this task, this sprint was changed." And then what my intention is on the client side to mark that record as stale. So if you navigate into the record, you um, you will reload it fresh potentially, or it may say, "Hey, by the way, this changed. Go get this one," and it'll refresh that store or that item in the store. You can't refresh the entire store because you might have changed 6 items, and a refresh of the store based upon triggering one will load all the others out. So, this is going to be a challenge to balance constantly. And as I'm asking AI to do this, what's going to happen is I'm constantly going to break that functionality unless I figure out how to put the rules in place to account for that behavior. So it knows, oh, I've got to, um, you know, allow for optimistic updates. So it's using what it's referring to as an enrichment pattern, where it merges the servers with the existing, so it won't override existing, but it'll merge any new from the server. Actually, it'll merge the two values, which is interesting. How does it challenge? How does it manage that? Server data as a base, existing store values overlaid to preserve. Right. Okay. So that makes sense. So if you take what the server gives you, then overlay what you have locally on top of it. If you've got changes the server hasn't updated to yet, then yeah, it should match. Okay, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense as a pattern. And I think one of the balance things will be figuring out how can you tell if the server is new or older than the front end. So the server can't. If I update something and if I update something and it comes round, well, there is a version attached, yes. If I update something and it comes round, did I put the version in there? Yeah, actually, that's a good point. If the version of the server is higher, we can make that a little simpler because right now it merges the two objects. It does. If we go to tasks query feature, you'll see it'll do this. So it'll get the task from the existing data, and then it will get it'll merge the two as a task. So it'll overlay the existing on top of the server. But what if the server doesn't match? That is a good point. Do we pull the version is the next question. So if we go back here, a version on here yet. Is it available? I don't know if version is available at this level. Let's hope this tool loads this time. Last time I loaded data grip, it loaded with just one icon in the screen. I couldn't get it back to normal size. Whoa. That's a little on the chunky side. How do I get the size down? I know I'm getting old, but my eyesight's not failing me that much yet. Liquid sky. It's not scaling at all. So it says Control Shift F12. Nope. Hold on. Did that give me a dialogue and I didn't click it? Okay, so how do I know? This is not good. I can't even close the window down. I want to see the data. I have no idea what I'm clicking. I'm sorry for this. This is a moment. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to query the data, but I might as well just try and get the token and then, yeah. So if you are new to the stream is not about me being productive. The stream is not about me getting code necessarily written. You can ask questions. I do not mind being challenged on my designs or my ideas. That is part of the process. I'm happy to, even if I seem to get defensive, all I'm doing is validating what I know and trying to learn. So it is perfectly fine. So we're going to do get planning items is deliverables. What? Oh, how did I manage to close a window with 2 clicks? Try that again. Deliverables. Okay, so let's do that. That's deliverables though. That's not get tasks. Do we have version on here yet? No, I do not have version. I kind of need data grip. So I can't close out a data grip because data grip pops up a dialog to say, "Are you sure you want to close?" And yeah, I will be right back. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so um, how do I factory reset data grip? Is the question. I really don't want to be messing around with trying to reinstall things on stream. It's just not going to work for me. Uh, data grip, data grip, data grip. Show log files. Okay, so that's JetBrains, data grip, editor. So I kind of need to reset some config or something somewhere. Data grip, when it opens, just turns into massive icons like I've zoomed in. That's a good point. ID zoom level. But I need to know the keyboard shortcuts to do it. So I don't know how it did it. I don't know whether I was leaning on something. Yeah, it could be zoomed in. So I suppose Alt Shift plus or minus. Or Alt Shift 0 should do it. Yeah. Oh, oh, no, see, watch what happens. It goes like this. It loads in a weird way. And then, oh, did I fix it? Oh, it worked. Okay, I'm just a mad person. It's fine. Okay. Not that one, though. I want Focus Guy. Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. Close project. Game Trove is not what I want. Okay, so what I need to see is, did I capture the view? Did I capture the version on the task? If I did, then we're good. If I've not done that yet, then that's the first order of business. Do not capture version. Versioning the object would be the quickest way of determining whether I need to pull this, because if it's a newer version, then yeah. But I feel like that's a larger project because I need to do every object that way. So let's not divert down that path right this second. Yeah, let's not divert. Let's go in here. And I think I might have actually started initiative on this one. Collision detection, yeah. So yeah, there's an initiative for this. So again, this way discussions and things will help. Tracking notes, etc. So um, yeah, that's a larger project of making sure that we understand. Oh, you've got changes on your client, but these changes are coming from the server. By the way, do we override them? Do we do those sorts of things? So that's fine. Okay. Okay. So what am I currently working on here? So in progress, backlog, implementation, review, backlog. That's what's outstanding. So Signal is working consistently now. This is good. It's connecting. All the hubs are working fine. So that I'm happy with. I think we're almost ready to do that flip. let's get these committed. So let's do this. So this was a change of which piece of the application used the source generator, which piece used um, the abstractions, and to make sure that it was building properly. So some updates. Shift, mediator, abstractions to application, source, generator. So it's okay to be on the source generator to be on the application side if I'm not using any of the features of mediator on the like the validation pipelines and stuff. But anywhere I need to generate code, um, then the API side is the better way there. So that's a lesson for me. And eventually, what I'll do is I'm going to start looking at Arch Unit. So if I could put some architecture tests in here, and then I'll make sure that you're breaking this rule. You create a rule that this must be referenced here. So I'll be able to analyze more. Kenny, thank you. Thank you for the look. Appreciate it. Shift mediator abstractions to application source generator. Yeah, application. Why does that look? Okay, that's weird. That my first is deliberately to mess with Stony because Stony always redeems last the moment it comes in the stream. So now everyone gets a first. So that's just to mess with him. So I get told channel points are a waste in the stream. That's fine. I get it. I don't invest much effort into making the stream entertaining or interactive. I don't put any trolley features in there. That's my choice. So shift mediator abstractions to application source generator where applicable to API. Oh, to source generator. That's where I was going. Source generator to API. Applicable. So let's commit and push that. Let's get all these changes off this machine. If I have some sort of issues. Okay. So I thought I put version on these. No. So version's not made it out of there. Version does exist on the server for deliverable. Yes, there's version. So yeah, version exists there. So that's fine. Wires everywhere. Um, okay. So what I'm doing is I'm saving a note into Claude to say, hey, we need to talk about optimistic updates and versioning in the future, but I'm not ready to do this yet. So please put this in later when we're talking about it. Because then we can build one consistent design for how we deal with optimistic updates. So let's let's do this. Let's go to tasks. Let's go to the validators for tasks. Apologize for the ads. So what I've got right now is a rule for where assigned project identifier can't be null when the assigned team identifier is not null. And we need to flip that. So rule for assigned team. Actually, hold on. Project must be assigned if team is selected. And it actually needs to be rule for x goes to x dot assign team when so you have to do the not null when x goes to x dot project identifier is not null with message team. Well, no, in this instance that's not true. I think this rule doesn't matter anymore because I think that what I want to do is say oh, hold on. No, team can still be null. Yeah, actually, I removed that entire. Assign project identifier has to be set. Not null with message. There you go. Okay, that might break some tests, which is fine. That's a good thing if it breaks tests. Not guaranteeing it. Nice. Okay, consider validation. When validating, add it and add task. So these don't matter in the same way anymore, right? Because project identifier, this is going to break the existing data. This is where I might consider wiping the entire thing again and starting all over. But the project identifier cannot be null if I want to get a unique identifier. So you have to assign a project to it, which does make sense. Right? Which project does this live in? And if you think about it, if you're doing this in Jira, you are in the project board when you're creating these tasks. You're in the ecosystem of that project. The only difference with Kaizu is there's no overarching project assigned. There's like, hey, this is the system. Here's the pieces of the system. So, you know, your roles will validate which projects you see and what you have access to. But yeah, so this is going to make this really complicated later on. By the way, this design is as I go through this, I realize there's some challenges in the way that I'm presenting this data, but it's part of the design that I do want to give overall visibility to the system, to everything that's going on in the product. If later on, as we start talking about the more firm use cases here, where you say, oh well, this organization has these teams and these teams, and they work on completely separate products, then maybe there's a product switch, or a product um, um, isolation of this data. But yeah, we can talk about that design later. I'm not scared of coming up against that at this point, even if it might be quite a large change. Um, this right now, um, uh, really, it's a project identifier must be assigned. Actually, I can validate this with data more than I can do anything else. This begs the question of, that's an important one. I assume for a GUID, that will pick out that it can't be 0000. Uh, actually, that's um, project identifier can not be uh, um, when validating an add test request cannot be no, cannot be empty. See, ooh, that doesn't work. So that needs to be explicit. Not equal GUID, not equal empty. I'll be right back. One moment. Phil Stemble, how are you doing? How are things? There we go. Okay. So we can't have an empty GUID. Um, team identifier is not assigned when ops are difficult these days. Stress level up, so stress headache. I'm grumpy because of it. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. So this has to be GUID, not new GUID. These should now both be valid. Sony, how are you doing? Okay, so clear that. Tired, what about you? Not as tired. I went so the reason I didn't stream last night was because I basically had 3 or 4 hours sleep for the previous 3 nights. So even I was lacking sleep. So yeah. Um, um, task. switch dependencies on projects and teams. Is required. Task. You must select. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to flip the task on the task screen. You used to be able to get name and a title and description, and then team was optional. And then I added project, and project was optional as long as team was not set. The moment you set team, you had to set project. I'm going to flip that now before I get too far down this path and say that you have to assign a project. You cannot create a task without a project to assign it to. And the moment you do, you can select a team, but you don't have to select a team at that point, right? So it's open to everyone, every team for that project. It's kind of like assigning it to a user. So you kind of gradually assign it down, right? To create a task, you must enter a title, description, and project. Team is always optional. So yeah, I'm trying to get to, if I hit this button, these two now flip. So project becomes selectable from the beginning, and you now need to select a project before you can hit create. So that's what we're aiming to do. And again, the goal of that is that by assigning it to a project, you won't be able to change the project later, right this second, because I'm not going to deal with that right this second. But by assigning it to a project, you okay. By assigning it to a project, you'll get the identifier. So once we've got this working, I can then look at how do I get a project identifier. And like I've said, we're going to introduce an HTTP API, HTTP call. So we're going to introduce an internal API to the organization management system. This is internal because you should not be able to allocate an ID or get access to IDs from external services. So that's fine. And for reference, any of these APIs here, I could support query. There's nothing saying I can't use these as query, but they are all right. They are all, yeah. Okay, so it's going to title required, description required, team optional, but when selected enables project drop-down, project disabled until team is selected and required. Target behavior, title description, project required, always enabled. Team always optional, no validators, no dependency on project. Need to make a slight change. Slight change to this. If I select a project, offered should only be teams. Yeah, I need to. Ooh, that's one to be careful of. So even though I've got Claude on the website set to do not use my stuff, right? Like you're not using my stuff for training. It just prompted me, how are we doing? And I said, good. And it said, can Anthropic use the session transcript to see how we're doing? No, because that's the same as feeding my data into into them, because I assume the session transcript also contains the context it's loaded. Otherwise, there's no value in that, in knowing what I said and what it said. So all I've done there is I've told it to update and say, hey, you need to account for the team that's, when I select a project, you need to also filter the teams. Okay, so I'm going to accept that because I understand what it's doing. But yeah, we'll introduce an API here. When a task is created, it will make an HTTP call to the organization management API to say, can you get me a unique identifier for this project identifier? And this will hold on to its incrementing counts. Again, a project is created in the organization management. It has a prefix. So what we'll do is we'll return an ID that has, BE001 or BE1, probably 1, so we don't end up with some weird formatting issues. We'll go with it. It'll be fine. It'll be years before I get to the tens of thousands. It does beg a question. Have you ever been in a Jira system where you've got to 10,000 plus items? Autism, hello, how you doing? Can you give a quick review of what's on screen for the uninitiated? Yeah. Okay, so this is Kaizu. This is the project, or rather, we'll go with this is the Liquid Sky part of Kaizu. Kaizu is made up of 2 components: Liquid Sky and Control Tower, essentially. Right. So Control Tower is the backend system for management of the actual product. So we start over here on the left. The client, in this case Angular, is we use auth0 to authenticate, and when we make requests, they go through a gateway. All commands, all changes to things get sent through gateway in and are sent to a layer of APIs that are broken into the modules for each component of the system, and that is just purely for the write side. Ultimately, there is a query side which pulls data back. In the gateway, your auth0 token is exchanged for an internal token. So we validate auth0 at this level. So if you require it to be authenticated for this request, auth0 is then used to validate your request here, and we switch it out for a token that contains your permissions in the system. So now everything behind here is completely independent of auth0. There's no hard coding on an external identity provider. I'm using complete internal components for authorization. When a request comes in through the API, and I've put write here, but just to make sure that I'm clear that these are all writes, there is no read from this side. So data comes in, it goes into its relevant component, and the component looks like this, and that's the API. Right? The name that matches is generally the API. That's the general rule. And that is saved to the local database, right? So this database is isolated from this database, from this database, from this database. So only things that deal with planning are here. I don't need to know about names of things. I don't need to know which projects it's necessarily associated with. It is just an item with some GUIDs, etc. on it. When data is saved in here, events that occur throughout the saving will then get used to publish that data to Kafka. Oh, this deliverable got updated. So it'll publish a message to Kafka to say this deliverable now looks like this. Everything below the Kafka line, so it's Kafka, everything below the Kafka line now reacts to those events. So the view side of the house, the actual, what I'm calling view, but I don't have a better name for it right now, we'll worry about that later, receives that event and says, oh, I need to store this data. So it stores a copy of that deliverable. It also stores copies of notifications, of attachments, of tasks, of organization management stuff. It contains pretty much what you would normally see as a database. That's what View is going to look like. There's a GraphQL API attached to that, and I use actual SQL views, etc., to keep it nice and tidy. And the GraphQL API uses those views to query the data out. So on the client side, if I say, hey, can you get me a list of, it's gone away because it's not loaded yet. If you can get me a list of tasks, then it goes to this side and says, hey, can I have these tasks? And it returns that back. Everything goes through the gateway. So as far as the client's concerned, it's only got one API endpoint. And even though there's, 8 or 9 different APIs behind there, it looks like one. When something changes in here, once we've confirmed we've received it, we publish an entity update for deliverables, for tasks, and that's back out into Kafka. This is just a constant stream of this change, this change, this change, this change. And SignalR, there's another service set up with SignalR, and when that's received, it's a very simple, lightweight API piece that pushes down entity updates to the client, so the client can be told, by the way, something changed. You want to do something about it. Not visible right now because I haven't really given it some TLC in a little while. Is the changes side of the house? So when you make a change and you update it, the individual APIs are not responsible for calculating what changed, even though they could. And I could say, oh, well, this was this before, this was this before, let's publish the changes out to Kafka. I leave that down to another service. And the primary reason is if there's any calculation or things I want to do, then this will calculate that out. So it gets a transform. This transform, the pipeline as I call it, basically determines, and JF, I'll answer that in a second. Basically, says, hey, what was it before? It captures this in MongoDB. It captures a snapshot of what the data looked like. It calculates the differences, and it produces this. And the changes part, actually, I think the changes part goes first and triggers this. So the changes part actually calculates the diff, publishes the diff, and then the transform pipeline goes and decorates that data. So the transform pipeline pulls all the actual relevant data and combines it, similar to the view, but now it produces an actual change set that says, oh, by the way, this change was made. So it changed the name to this, it changed the project to this, and it gives more enriched data, including who did that change. So it adds a little bit more richness. So eventually you'll be able to see a list of changes that occurred with who and when. How is a token that is granted invalidated? This token here. Right now, it's only the time, right? So it does have a very small window of like 5 minutes of this being valid. And again, you wouldn't get this from outside. So the only way to get this is if you are Auth0 authenticated into the system. So you can't get this token unless you are validated with Auth0, right? So, and you can't get to this API externally. So that would be a challenge. But I am looking at like how to implement proper OIDC behavior, because I am seeing some errors where even though these shouldn't be, they're calling back to try and get like there's when you set up a token, it actually calls back to validate itself, right? And that piece doesn't necessarily need to be implemented for this to work. I don't need that thing there, but it can do. So I'm still trying to learn more about the OIDC protocol. So there we go. So again, all these pieces respond, and communications, notifications, like letting people know things have changed, doing all those sorts of things is a big part of what I want to do with this system. So there is a service bus component. So notifications, hey, I care about this thing changing, tell me about it changing, and it will do that. So that is coming later. It does kind of work, but it needs a lot more, like this area of the system needs a lot more TLC recently, because I've done so much around it. So there you go. And yeah, you're welcome. Anytime you want to ask about this, you're more than welcome. JF, what is the best way to ask my manager I think I should get a small raise? Um, I found in the past that looking at the market value of what you do, looking at what people are getting paid, and if you're far off, then bringing up that conversation as a look, I don't think I'm being paid um, where I need to be. I don't think I am where I need to be in terms of my pay, and I'd like to address that. Um, I've had in the past where the management has agreed immediately to increase my salary. Um, I've had in the past where we put into place a plan of how we'll increase my salary. It could get you some feedback you need to improve or to do whatever. So I would recommend looking at what the market pays for where you are as well, which is getting harder these days with remote work. But I would recommend looking at what the market is currently paying for what you do and your level of experience and what you're bringing, and then try and make that argument with some firm. Basically, it's unveiled like, well, other people are paying this. Um, so yeah, that's normally how I've gone about that process. So I hope that's helpful. And thank you very much for the follow. Adodev, welcome in. So yeah, this is what we're trying to build, right? So let's do this. Let's run this. Maybe a giant kappa needs to be put around that. I'm surprised that Twitch even lets that. Like, it's like, no, considering my language level and my language settings on my stream, that is surprising that that one is like, yeah, it's fine, it's fine. I hope people realize that would be not the way to do that. They use keywords. Gotcha, gotcha. Me expecting advanced things from Twitch. So let's see if we got that task in there. So we go to implementation, backlog, add task now. So now project. So if we go thinking everything is AI, validate that I can add a set project. So when I enter a description now, project should enable. It shouldn't be enabled. It is enabled, I suppose, right now. So this should um, so front end. So now I can create that. And now Teams, DevOps, nice. Database, yeah. Backend, DevOps and Punch, nice. So it's filtering these down properly. That's really great news. So if we do that, and create a task. Blah blah blah. No handler registered. What? Come on, man. What? How did you get here then? This how did this happen if I do not have I don't get this. Do 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 do. So mediator abstractions. Ah. Well, there's no source. Add mediator comes from source generation, not from. This system is sent to test me. So we need this. on here. Definitely don't see it. Anyone else see it? Nope. Now it's going to break because now it's going to go, oh, you've got it registered twice. If it doesn't, I'll be amazed. It's normally what happens. I've definitely hit this push and pull problem with the mediator stuff, where I change one, especially the source generator stuff, not necessarily just the mediator stuff, but the source generation stuff does come with it an extra level of complication. If you use Mediator by Jimmy Bogard, it doesn't use source generation; it uses reflection to do everything. So it does. You kind of tell it what it needs to see, whereas this one does the scan and builds the code to wire everything up, so you don't end up with that little bit of a delay when you go to call something because it's trying to figure out where it needs to go. It uses generation, so everything's just wired as if you hand coded it. Okay, so that built. So let's see if this works now. Nope, 500 error. No handler registered. By adding the mediator, command handler, it's right there. This was working. The proof of that is the fact that these exist and they're all using this dialog. So it has been working. Oh, that's not good. Why do you not have... Oh, there's no handler registered. What are you doing? If there's no handler registered, it's not going to magically get there. Does it get there? Okay, we do get there at least. See this configuration? So this is again what I was talking about before with the this has just started recently. This is complaining because it's trying to get back to validate this I not signing. Yes, signing. It's trying to validate it, and there's no internal reference for it. Ultimately, I need to put that there, but it gives me this error, but it's not really an error. Not on that anyway. Huh. So why are you not registered? It's not one thing, it's another. So realistically, that can't be no anymore. So let's actually make it tell the truth on this side. Well, we're changing things anyway. Whoa, 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 whoa. Actually, let's do it that way. Yeah. Let's make sure we get this side right. So when you create a task, I can't motivate myself today. That's okay. Not every day has to be motivational. Normally, I find that's when it's the most difficult to do anything is when you're trying to motivate yourself because then you're not satisfied with anything. Last night, again, I didn't stream because I was so tired, and I was like, if I stream, that energy is just going to be nothing. So I was like, I went and sat on the couch and watched some TV, and that was it. And I get it. Some days you have to push yourself a little bit. Otherwise, you'll just do that all the time. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Wow. So that just flips them a little bit. On that command, I remove that. On create here, we don't want that to be nullable anymore, so that's fine. This might break other things, but it's fine. Let's make that. That's fine. We don't want so. My challenge here is I can't actually make the project identifier not nullable now on the table. There we go. Okay, it's used with its hour position. That's fine. It's fine. It'll error in a second on the whole nullable. Yeah. I'm hoping tests fail here, but we'll find out. What? When adding a task with requirement? Oh, because that's there, that's there, and that's grid, don't need grid. Let's see if that builds now. I swear my streamers list gets emptier by the week. So I was watching. What was I watching? I was watching a Max and Nick Giovanni video yesterday on sausages from around the world, and they rated like black pudding and Cumberland sausage as like C tier sausages, but then they rated a hot dog as an S tier sausage. It's like, really, really? I'm not sure that's true. No offense, but is it really? Mystery meat is a exactly. Morning radio, Patrick. How you doing? Like I like hot dogs. I but I do know that what I'm eating is not in any way, shape, or form good. So worthy of a watch. Uh, no, I thought you can't do that there. Not equal to null. You can't do a is not null inside of an operator like that. Should still break. It should still error because I don't think I set the project ID. Oh no, interesting. By the way, so all I've done there is I've assured myself that any projects going forward will have a GUID, but eventually, what I want to do is, yeah, it's like chicken nuggets. You got to love them, but don't go asking questions. As a native of the Greater Chicago area, I'm an authority on hot dogs. Yeah, but either way, I can't say for certain that I would say a. I mean, they tasted hot dog like they made meat hot dogs or sausages from all over the world, and to put hot dog as an S tier just felt a bit poor. So either way, okay. So why is this not breaking? This is annoying. Is this something to do with the cleaning of it? So when you do source generation, this should, yeah, so there's my mediator. So this should be the code that's generated, right? Add task. So we should have add task handler, right? So the handle is registered. And register handles and wrappers for notification. Register handles for requests. Register notification handles. Right, so that's registered. I would say that's registered. Let's go try it now. Yeah, chicken nuggets are, yeah. If you're going to have chicken nuggets, make them yourself. You don't know, it's the same, it's the equivalent of hot dogs. Hi, Kenny. I've returned. How's progress? When release? When release? Ooh, that would be a good thing to know, wouldn't it? I've set targets for myself in the past, but then drifted off onto different things. But I don't know yet. What? Stony? You are a danger. Unless you did that deliberately because it was funny. You're giving shout outs. Not with shield mode on you, not. Why? That's the second time in 2 weeks you've enabled shield mode for me. What are you doing? You're meant to be a trusty mod. I appreciate you trying to give shout outs. Shenanigans. Yeah. And thank you very much for giving the shout outs. I do appreciate it. And Canny, thank you very much for the Prime sub. Um, to follow up on the kind shout outs. Um, um, if you like hot dogs, maybe is definitely a stream to go and watch. Don't know what schedule maybe's on recently, but definitely a great place to go and hang out. Works on Barely Fit and other and game stuff sometimes, and definitely worth going checking out. And Canny Dev, awesome streamer again. Works on game stuff, overlay stuff, and just craziness and shenanigans there as well. So go check out Canny. Great developer, amazing code. Python or C Sharp, working in Godot, um, and has built an entire library to help people who use Godot interact with Twitch. So Twitcher is definitely worth checking out if you're interested in game dev stuff and doing streaming. So there you go. Okay, one more test. Let's see if this actually does it now, because I think that code worked. We hit that. I'm just going to throw the computer out the window if this doesn't work. I'm just not in the mood for this today. We need things. We need things to work. No handler registered. But 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 we saw it in here. It's right here. it registers the freaking handler. Add task handler. Sad. Very sad. I command handler for add task.command. Good. Add task handler. It says it right there. There's the registration. There's the actual. Oh, that's not registered. Okay. Well, I'm out of time. Is anyone else streaming? No. Twitch really doesn't make it easy to modify its CSS. Div has div. You're trying to automate this against my stream? Are you trying to make sure you can't hit shield mode accidentally? Ah, you remove the button. Nice. Thursdays isn't a stream day, apparently. No, it's not, apparently. So, but I got to get going because I got work to do today. Stream but ask for no help. So, okay, well, thank you for hanging out with me today. It seems awful to not raid someone. But unless anyone gets suggestions, I don't really have anyone to raid, so I'm not raiding. So anyway, I'm just going to finish up there. I will be back on Monday, hopefully with a working task system, hopefully with a version by that point. That's the goal. And then next week, moving towards getting more of that delivery workflow in there, right? So that's what we're going to do. So by the end of next week, we should be able to go and start to see some of the delivery components appear where we've got version tasks and we start to generate releases. So that's the plan. So thank you very much for joining me. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you all again soon. And have a great weekend. Bye all.